I watched my wife walk away for breathing room, only to discover that independence without my support came with consequences she never expected. People forget that breathing room comes with a price tag they can't afford. It was a Wednesday evening, and I was finishing my dinner when she dropped the bomb. No warning, no build-up, just straight to the point. She wanted space. Not just any space, but breathing room to figure herself out. She'd been feeling suffocated in our marriage. Apparently, the irony wasn't lost on me, considering she'd been breathing just fine in our 4-bedroom house with the heated pool and the luxury car I'd bought her last year. I set down my fork and looked at her across the table. She had this rehearsed look on her face, like she'd practiced this conversation in the mirror. I could tell she expected me to panic, to beg, to ask what I'd done wrong. Instead, I just nodded. "Okay," I said. "How much space do you need?" She blinked, clearly thrown off by my calm response. I was thinking maybe we could try a temporary separation, just for a few months. I already found a small apartment downtown. Already found an apartment, so this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned, calculated. She'd been plotting her exit strategy while I was working to maintain the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. "Interesting," I said, leaning back in my chair. "So, you want to be independent?" "It's not about independence," she said quickly. "I just need to find myself again. I feel like I've lost who I am in this marriage." I almost laughed. Lost who she was? The woman who spent her days at the spa, shopping with friends, and posting pictures of her designer bags on social media had lost herself. But I kept my expression neutral. "Well, if you need space to breathe, then you need complete independence," I said. "I wouldn't want to suffocate you with my support." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" I stood up and walked to the kitchen drawer where we kept important documents. I pulled out her credit cards, the ones linked to my accounts, and placed them on the table. "If you're going to be independent, you need to be truly independent," I said. "These cards are connected to my accounts. I wouldn't want you to feel suffocated by my financial support while you're finding yourself." Her eyes widened. "You can't be serious." "Dead serious," I replied. "You want breathing room? You got it. But breathing room means you breathe your own air, not mine." I pulled out my phone and started making calls. First, I called the bank to remove her access to our joint accounts. Then, I called the insurance company to take her off my policy. She sat there stunned as I systematically cut every financial tie between us. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice rising. "Giving you exactly what you asked for," I said, still on the phone with the car insurance company. "Yes, I need to remove a driver from my policy. Effective immediately." When I hung up, she was standing, her hands trembling slightly. "This isn't what I meant." "Really?" I asked. Because when someone asks for space to find themselves, I assume they want to do it on their own terms, with their own resources, using their own money. She opened her mouth to argue, but I continued. "The apartment lease is in your name, right? The utilities will be in your name too. That's perfect. Complete independence." I walked over to the wine fridge and pulled out a bottle of expensive red we'd been saving for a special occasion. I poured myself a glass and took a sip. "You know what?" I said. "This is a special occasion. My wife is finally going to learn what it means to be truly independent." She was quiet for a long moment, clearly processing the reality of what I'd just done. I could see the wheels turning in her head, calculating expenses, realizing what her monthly costs would be without my financial backing. "I thought you'd fight for us," she said weakly. "Fight for what?" I asked. "You've made it clear you don't want to be here. I'm not going to beg someone to stay who's already mentally checked out." "That's not what men do." I finished my wine and placed the glass in the sink. "Your breathing room starts now. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for." The next morning, I helped her load her things into her car. Not because I felt sorry for her, but because I wanted to make sure she actually left. She kept looking at me like she expected me to break down and ask her to stay. Instead, I handed her the last box and said, "Don't forget to change your address with the post office. You'll be getting your own bills now." As she drove away, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. She wanted space to breathe, and now she had all the space in the world. The question was, could she afford the air that came with it? I walked back into the house, which suddenly felt bigger and quieter, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. For the first time in months, I could breathe too. The first week after she moved out was enlightening. Not for me, but apparently for her. She'd been sending me photos of her new apartment, clearly expecting me to be jealous or maybe feel guilty about her downgrade, a studio apartment with a Murphy bed and a kitchenette barely bigger than our walk-in closet. I responded to each photo with a simple nice or looks cozy. What she didn't know was that I was busy making some changes of my own. I canceled the premium cable package she used to watch her reality shows. Canceled the grocery delivery service that brought her organic everything. Canceled the monthly flower delivery that kept our house looking like a magazine spread. The house phone she never used but insisted we keep? Gone. I kept the necessities, of course, but all the luxury services that made her life comfortable, those were breathing room expenses she could handle on her own now. By the second week, the calls started. "Hey, I'm having trouble with my health insurance," she said when I answered. "They're saying I'm not covered anymore." "That's because you're not," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "You wanted independence, remember? Independent people have their own insurance. But I don't have a job yet. I can't afford—" "Then you better find one," I said. "Or maybe ask your parents for help. Isn't that what independent people do when they need support?" There was a long pause. "You're being cruel." "I'm being consistent," I corrected. "You said you felt suffocated by this marriage. I removed the suffocation. You're welcome." She hung up, but not before I heard her voice crack slightly. I felt nothing. Well, that's not entirely true. I felt satisfied. She'd made her choice, and now she was living with the consequences. The third week brought more calls. The expensive gym membership she'd had for 3 years? Canceled. The monthly spa treatments? Canceled. The subscription boxes that delivered everything from makeup to gourmet coffee? All canceled. "You can't just cancel everything," she said during one of our brief conversations. "Watch me," I replied. "These were services for my wife. You're not my wife anymore. You're a woman who needed space to find herself. Well, congratulations, you found yourself broke." She tried a different approach. "What about the things I left behind? My jewelry, my clothes? They're in boxes in the garage," I said. "You can pick them up anytime, just call first. I might have company." I didn't actually have company, but I enjoyed the way her voice tightened when I said it. She was beginning to realize that her little experiment in independence wasn't going as planned. The fourth week was when reality really hit her. She'd been job hunting, but after years of being out of the workforce, she was discovering that her options were limited. Retail jobs, waitressing, basic office work. Nothing that would support the lifestyle she'd grown accustomed to. "I got a job," she told me during one of our calls. She sounded like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. "Congratulations," I said. "Where?" "A boutique downtown. It's part-time, but it's something." I did the math in my head. Part-time retail in a boutique. Maybe 15 hours a week at minimum wage. That wouldn't even cover her rent, let alone food, utilities, and the car payment she'd suddenly become responsible for. "That's great," I said. "Financial independence must feel amazing." "It's just temporary," she said quickly. "Until I figure out what I really want to do." "Of course it is," I agreed. "Take all the time you need. You've got plenty of breathing room now." Meanwhile, I was thriving. Without her constant expenses, I had more money than I knew what to do with. I treated myself to a new watch, upgraded my golf membership, and started eating at restaurants I'd avoided because she didn't like them. I was having dinner at one of those restaurants when I ran into her friend Lisa. "How are you handling everything?" Lisa asked, clearly fishing for information. "Handling what?" I asked, genuinely confused. "The separation." She told us how hard this must be for you. I almost choked on my wine. "Hard for me, Lisa?" She wanted space to breathe. I gave her space. I'm doing exactly what she asked for. Lisa looked uncomfortable. She thought you'd, try to win her back. "Why would I win back someone who doesn't want to be won?" I asked. "She's an adult. She made an adult decision. I'm treating her like the independent woman she wanted to be." Lisa shifted in her seat. "But she's struggling. The apartment is expensive, and the job barely pays anything." "Then she should have thought about that before she decided she needed breathing room," I said. "Adults consider consequences before they make major life decisions. At least smart adults do." Lisa left shortly after that, but not before giving me a look that suggested I was somehow the villain in this story. I found that amusing. I wasn't the one who decided our marriage was suffocating. I wasn't the one who'd secretly planned an exit strategy. I was just the one who'd taken her at her word and given her exactly what she'd asked for. By the end of the month, she was calling more frequently, not to chat, but to ask for temporary help with various expenses. The car needed repairs. The apartment's heating bill was higher than expected. She needed money for work clothes. Each time my answer was the same. "That sounds like something an independent person would handle on their own." She was learning what I'd known all along. Freedom isn't free. Independence comes with a price tag, and breathing room. Well, that can get expensive when you're the one paying for the air. Month 2 of her independence experiment was when things got really interesting. She'd been calling me almost daily now, each conversation a masterclass in desperation disguised as casual conversation. "I was thinking," she said during one of these calls, "maybe we could work out some kind of temporary arrangement, just until I get back on my feet." "What kind of arrangement?" I asked, already knowing where this was going. "Well, you know how we used to split expenses? Maybe we could do something similar just for a few months." I laughed, actually laughed. "Split expenses? We never split expenses. I paid for everything while you spent money on whatever caught your fancy. That's not splitting, that's me funding your lifestyle." "That's not fair," she said, her voice getting that whiny tone I'd grown so tired of. "You're right," I agreed. "It wasn't fair to me. But that's in the past now. You wanted independence, remember? Independent people don't ask their ex-husbands for allowances." "Ex-husband?" she repeated, like the words stung. "Well, we're separated," I said. "You moved out. You wanted space. What did you think this was, summer camp?" She was quiet for a moment. "I thought you cared about me." "I did care about you," I said. Past tense. I cared about the woman I married, but that woman apparently felt suffocated by my care, so I stopped suffocating her. Problem solved. The calls kept coming, but they were getting more desperate. She'd started using emotional manipulation tactics that might have worked on the old me. "I barely ate yesterday," she told me during one call. "I had to choose between groceries and the electric bill." "Tough choices," I said. "Welcome to adulthood." "Don't you care that I'm struggling?" "Should I asked. "You made it very clear that you could handle things on your own. I'm just respecting your capabilities." She tried a different approach. "What if I came home just for a few days to think things through?" "Home," I repeated. "This isn't your home anymore. You have an apartment downtown. That's your home, the one you picked out specifically because you needed space to breathe." "I made a mistake," she said quietly. "Yes, you did," I agreed. "But mistakes have consequences, and the consequence of your mistake is that you get to be exactly as independent as you wanted to be." I'd been keeping track of her finances, not because I cared, but because I was curious how long her little experiment would last. The boutique job was giving her maybe $300 a week. Her rent alone was $1,200 a month. Add utilities, food, car payment, insurance, and basic living expenses. And she was running a deficit of at least $1,000 monthly. She'd been burning through whatever savings she had, probably assuming I'd crack and help her out. But I wasn't the same man who'd let her walk all over him for years. That man had died the day she asked for breathing room. "I'm thinking about moving back in with my parents," she told me during week 6. "That's a great idea," I said. "Nothing says I found myself like moving back into your childhood bedroom. You don't have to be so mean about it." "I'm not being mean," I said. "I'm being honest. You wanted to find yourself, and apparently yourself is someone who can't afford to live independently. At least now you know." Her friends had started reaching out to me too. Lisa called twice. Another friend named Jessica left voicemails. They all had the same basic message. I was being too harsh. She was suffering. Couldn't I show some compassion? I met Lisa for coffee just to address this nonsense once and for all. "She's not eating properly," Lisa said. "She's lost weight. She looks terrible." "That's what happens when you make impulsive decisions without thinking them through," I said. "Actions have consequences. I didn't create this situation. She did." "But you could help her," Lisa insisted. "You have the means." "I could help a lot of people," I said. "There are homeless shelters full of people who need help. Why is she special? Because she used to be married to me?" She ended that. She wanted independence. I gave her independence. Lisa looked frustrated. "She loves you." "No, she doesn't," I said. "She loves what I provided for her, the house, the car, the lifestyle. She never loved me. If she had, she wouldn't have thrown it all away because she felt suffocated by a good life. Maybe she just needs to hear that you still care. But I don't," I said simply. "I cared about my wife. She's not my wife anymore. She's a woman who made a choice, and now she's living with it. That's how the real world works." Lisa left that coffee meeting looking like she'd seen a ghost. Maybe she had. Maybe she'd seen the ghost of the man who used to beg for scraps of affection and attention. That man was gone. By the end of month 2, she was calling me, crying. Actual tears this time, not the manipulative kind. "I can't do this anymore," she sobbed. "I was wrong. I was so wrong." "Wrong about what?" I asked. "About everything. About us. About needing space." "I don't need space. I need you." "No," I said calmly. "You need my money. You need my support. You need my house and my car and my credit cards. You don't need me. You've made that very clear." "That's not true," she cried. "Then prove it," I said. "Make it work without me. Show me that you can be the independent woman you wanted to be. Show me that you can breathe, on your own." She was quiet, except for her crying. "I'll tell you what," I said. "You wanted space to find yourself. Take all the time you need. When you figure out who you are without my support, give me a call. Maybe by then you'll have learned the difference between wanting someone and needing their money. I hung up and turned off my phone. She could suffocate in her breathing room for a while. After all, she'd asked for it. Month 3 brought the reality check I'd been waiting for. She'd moved back in with her parents, which was exactly what I predicted would happen. The boutique job had cut her hours because business was slow, and her dreams of independence had crashed into the brick wall of basic mathematics. Her mother called me. That was a surprise. She's miserable, her mother said without preamble. Hello to you too, I replied. I'm doing well, thanks for asking. Don't be smart with me, she snapped. You know why I'm calling. Actually, I don't, I said. Your daughter wanted space to find herself. I gave her space. She found herself broke and living in her childhood bedroom. Mission accomplished. She made a mistake, her mother said. People make mistakes. Yes, they do, I agreed. And when adults make mistakes, they live with the consequences. That's how people learn not to make the same mistakes twice. She's learned her lesson, her mother insisted. Has she? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like she's learned that when things get tough, someone else will fix it for her. First me, now you. That's not learning a lesson, that's confirming bad behavior. Her mother was quiet for a moment. She thinks you hate her. I don't hate her, I said. Hate requires passion, and I have no passion left for your daughter. She's like a stranger to me now. A stranger who used to live in my house. You're being cruel. I'm being honest, I corrected. Cruelty would be giving her false hope. Honesty is telling her that she chose this path, and this is where it leads. The conversation ended with her mother hanging up on me. I wasn't surprised. The whole family had always enabled her behavior, always bailed her out when things got difficult. They'd created the monster, and now they were upset that the monster had bitten them too. A week later, I heard through mutual friends that she'd been trying to get back into the workforce full-time. Apparently, living with her parents had given her some perspective on just how expensive independence really was. She applied at 3 different companies, Jessica told me when she cornered me at the grocery store. Office jobs. She's trying to build a career. Good for her, I said, genuinely meaning it. It's never too late to become a productive member of society. You could help her get a good position, Jessica suggested. You have connections. I almost dropped my groceries. Help her? Why would I help someone who abandoned me when things got comfortable? That would be like giving a reference to an employee who quit without notice. But you loved her, Jessica said desperately. I loved who I thought she was, I said. Turns out I was wrong about who that was. She showed me her true character when she walked out. People don't change, Jessica, they just reveal who they really were all along. That evening, I got a text from her. The first direct communication in over a week. Can we talk in person? I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me was curious what she had to say. The other part of me knew exactly what she wanted to say, and I wasn't interested in hearing it. I texted back. About what? About us. About fixing this. There is no us, I replied. You made sure of that when you decided you needed breathing room, and there's nothing to fix. Everything is working exactly as intended. Please, one conversation. That's all I'm asking. I thought about it. Maybe it was time to close this chapter completely. Maybe she needed to hear face to face that her decision had permanent consequences. Fine. Coffee shop on 5th Street. Tomorrow at noon. One conversation. The next day, I arrived at the coffee shop early and picked a table near the back. I wanted privacy for what was about to happen. She walked in 10 minutes late, looking like a completely different person from the woman who had left me 3 months ago. She'd lost weight, but not in a good way. She looked tired, worn down. Her clothes were nice, but not new, probably things she'd bought months ago when money wasn't an issue. Her hair was different, too. Shorter and styled in a way that screamed budget salon. Thank you for meeting me, she said as she sat down. One conversation, I reminded her. Make it count. She ordered a regular coffee, not the expensive specialty drinks she used to prefer. Another sign of her new financial reality. I want to come home, she said once the waitress left. You are home, I said. With your parents, in your childhood bedroom. Exactly where someone who can't afford to live independently belongs. She winced. That's not what I mean. And you know it. Actually, I don't know what you mean, I said. Be specific. What exactly are you asking for? I want to come back to our house. To our marriage. I want to fix this. Our house? I repeated. Our marriage? Interesting how everything becomes ours again when you can't afford the alternative. I made a mistake, she said. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. And now you do, I asked. Yes, she said quickly. I want you. I want us. I leaned back in my chair and studied her face. What do you want about me specifically? She looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, what is it about me that you want? What qualities do I have that attract you? She stammered for a moment. You're a good man, you're stable, you take care of things. Ah, I said. So, you want my stability, you want me to take care of things. You want the security I provide. That's not, she started, then stopped. That's not what? I prompted. That's not the only reason, she finished weakly. But it's the main reason, I said. You don't want me. You want what I represent. Security, comfort, someone else paying the bills while you figure out who you are. She was quiet, staring at her coffee. Here's what I think happened, I continued. You got bored. You took everything I provided for granted. You convinced yourself that you were missing out on something better. So you decided to trade security for excitement. I leaned forward. But you didn't find excitement, did you? You found exactly what I knew you'd find. The real world. The world where actions have consequences, and bills don't pay themselves. I was wrong, she whispered. Yes, you were, I agreed. But being wrong doesn't undo the choice you made. You can't unbreak an egg. You can't unring a bell. And you can't unabandon a marriage because independence turned out to be expensive. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. So that's it? You won't even consider giving us another chance? I finished my coffee and stood up. You had your chance. You threw it away because you thought you could do better. Now you know you can't. But that doesn't mean you get to come back. That's not how life works. I put money on the table for both our coffees. Enjoy your breathing room. You've got plenty of it now. As I walked away, I heard her crying behind me, but I didn't turn around. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. And some people, once they show you who they really are, don't deserve a second chance to hurt you. 2 weeks after our coffee shop conversation, she showed up at my house. I was getting ready for work when I heard the doorbell. Through the window, I could see her standing on the porch looking nervous. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. We need to talk, she said. We talked, I replied. 2 weeks ago, you said your piece. My conversation is over. Please, she said, and I could hear the desperation in her voice just 5 minutes against my better judgment. I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into the living room and stood there awkwardly, like a stranger in a place she used to call home. The house looks different, she said. I'd redecorated, removed the throw pillows she loved, changed the artwork, bought new furniture. It was my space now, not ours. Houses change when the person who lived in them moves out, I said. What do you want? She took a deep breath. I want to come home. Really come home. Not just temporarily, forever. And what makes you think I want you here, I asked. Because I know you, she said. I know you still love me. I laughed. Do you? Do you really know me? Because the man you knew would have begged you to stay. The man you knew would have fought for you. The man you knew would have taken you back the first time you asked. She nodded eagerly. Exactly. That's who you are. Wrong, I said. That's who I was. That man died the day you walked out. He was weak. He was desperate. He would have accepted any treatment just to keep you around. I walked to the window and looked out at the driveway. That man is gone. I killed him, and I'm much better off without him. You don't mean that, she said. I absolutely mean that, I replied. That man would have taken you back by now. He would have paid your bills, solved your problems, and pretended everything was fine. But I'm not that man anymore. She started crying, real tears this time, not the manipulative kind. I lost everything, she sobbed. My independence, my dignity, my marriage. I'm living with my parents like a teenager. I can't afford anything. I can't even afford to get my hair done. And whose fault is that? I asked calmly. Mine, she admitted. It's all my fault. But I can fix it. I can be better. I can be the wife you deserve. The wife I deserve, I repeated. The wife I deserve doesn't abandon me when she gets bored. The wife I deserve doesn't throw away years of marriage for breathing room. The wife I deserve doesn't come crawling back only when the alternative becomes unbearable. I turned to face her. You don't want to be my wife. You want to be my dependent. There's a difference. That's not true, she protested. Really? I challenged. Tell me something you love about me that has nothing to do with what I can provide for you. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. Nothing came out. Exactly, I said. You can't because you don't love me. You love my house, my income, my stability. You love the lifestyle I made possible. But me, the actual person? You got bored with him in under 5 years. Please, she whispered. I'll do anything. Anything? I asked. Will you go back to your apartment downtown? Will you build a life for yourself that doesn't depend on me? Will you become the independent woman you said you wanted to be? I tried that. She said it didn't work because you didn't really try, I said. You gave up the moment it got difficult. You wanted independence without the responsibility, freedom without the cost. That's not how the world works. I walked to the door and opened it. Your breathing room is still available. Use it. Learn to breathe on your own. And maybe someday you'll understand the difference between wanting someone and needing them. If I leave now, will you ever take me back? She asked. I looked at her standing in my doorway, a broken woman who traded everything for nothing. No, I said, I won't. Because I finally learned something important. I learned that I don't need someone who doesn't want to be here. I learned that love isn't enough if it comes with conditions. And I learned that the right person doesn't ask for breathing room from a good life. She left without another word. I watched her drive away, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt completely at peace. She'd wanted breathing room. Now she had an entire lifetime of it. 6 months later, I finalized the divorce papers. She didn't contest anything because she couldn't afford a lawyer. The house, the assets, everything stayed with me. She got exactly what she'd asked for, complete independence from our marriage. I heard through mutual friends that she'd moved to a different state, back to her college town, where the cost of living was cheaper. She was working at a chain restaurant, living in a one-bedroom apartment with a roommate. The breathing room she'd wanted had become a life of barely making ends meet. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I'd gotten a promotion at work, partly because I could focus completely on my career without distractions. I'd started dating again. Nothing serious, just enjoying the company of women who appreciated what I brought to the table. The house felt like home again. I'd renovated the master bedroom, turned her old closet into a home office, and installed a hot tub on the deck. Every change erased another memory of her presence. One evening I was grilling dinner when my phone rang. Unknown number, but I recognized the area code, her new city. Hello? I answered. It's me, she said quietly. I know, I replied. What do you want? I just wanted to tell you that I understand now, she said. I understand what I lost. Do you? I asked. Because understanding and accepting are two different things. I accept it, she said. I accept that I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was stupid and selfish. I flipped the steak on the grill. Good. That's progress. I'm not calling to ask for anything, she continued. I know that door is closed. I just wanted you to know that I know it was my fault. All of it. I already knew that, I said. But I'm glad you finally figured it out. There was a long pause. Are you happy? She asked. Very, I said without hesitation. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm glad, she said, and I could hear that she was crying. You deserve to be happy. Yes, I do, I agreed. And I deserve someone who doesn't need breathing room from happiness. I hope you find her, she whispered. I already have, I said. I found peace. I found self-respect. I found out what I'm worth. Turns out I'm worth more than someone who abandoned ship at the first sign of boredom. After we hung up, I sat on my deck with a glass of wine, watching the sunset. She'd called looking for closure, but I'd had closure for months. The moment she walked out, I'd closed that chapter of my life. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd wanted space to find herself, and in the end, I was the one who'd found himself. I discovered that I didn't need someone who didn't want to be there. I'd learned that self-respect isn't negotiable. I'd figured out that the right person doesn't need breathing room from a good life. She'd wanted to breathe, and now she could breathe all she wanted, alone in her one-bedroom apartment, working double shifts to pay rent, living paycheck to paycheck. That was the cost of the air she demanded. I raised my glass to the sunset, to breathing room. I said aloud, may everyone who asks for it get exactly what they deserve. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was peaceful. It was mine. And unlike her cramped apartment, it had plenty of space to breathe. The difference was, I never needed space from a good thing. I just needed space from someone who couldn't appreciate what she had until it was gone. She'd gotten her breathing room. I'd gotten my life back. In the end, we both got exactly what we'd asked for.